Okay, so let's move on to taking the cross product of some real live vectors. I've got stuff already written here because I made 2 attempts to start this and been unhappy with where I was going. So I'm going to take these 2 vectors a and b written out here, and I'm going to take the cross product of them like this. So I'm going to use the standard FOIL technique where you just go first, outer, inner, last, from Algebra 2 or Algebra 1 or wherever you learned it. So FOIL, you'll start with the first term of each, 3 I hat cross 7 I hat. Well, any vector crossed with itself, you remember the cross product is proportional to the sine of that angle, right? So the sine of this angle theta, the cross product is proportional to that. Well, any 2 vectors, or any vector crossed with itself, or any 2 vectors pointing in the same direction, are going to have a theta of 0 because there's no angle between them, and the sine of theta is going to be 0 then too. So 3 I hat cross 7 I hat is going to equal 0. So my first term is going to be 0. Okay, then I do outer, so I do 3 I hat cross negative 5 k hat. Okay, so I'm going to do, let's see, 3 I hat cross negative 5 k hat. So 3 I hat cross minus 5 k hat. And this is kind of, the annoyingly hard version of this. You'll get better at this as you go along. So I've got my 3 times my negative 5, so I'm going to make this negative 15 I hat cross k hat. Okay, and so now I've got to remember, well, is that going to be, I know that's going to be j hat, it's going to be positive or negative j hat. So let's see, I'm going to write my ijk, and then I'm going to think, I'm going from I to k, so going from I have to go to the left to get to k, right? So I go one more step to the left to get to j, and my answer is going to be negative. So this is going to be, this here is going to be negative 15 times negative j hat, which is going to equal 15 j hat. So this is my outer term, so 15 j hat. And then my inner terms are going to be 6 j hat cross 7 I hat. So again, I have 6 j hat cross 7 I hat, and this is going to equal 6 times 7, which is 42, times j hat cross I hat. And once again, let's see, I'm going to use red this time. I'm going from j to I, so I go back one more to k, and because I'm going backwards, I'm going negative. So this is going to be negative 42 k hat. Okay, so minus 42 k hat. And then finally, I have my last terms, which is 6 j hat and negative 5 k hat. So 6 j hat cross negative 5 k hat. And so let's see, 6 times negative 5, so negative 30 times j hat cross k hat. And here, I'm going to use, I'll use blue for this one. Well, I'm going with jk, so I'm actually going to the right this time. And I go one more term, and I go to I. So j hat cross k hat is I hat. So the answer here will be negative 30 I hat. So negative 30 I hat. So this right here is my cross product of A and B. Now, this is really by far the nastiest possible kind of cross product. Let me show you something that's much easier, and that is doing these things in the plane. If you ever get cross products to do in the coordinate plane, and you will, most of the ones you have to do will be in the coordinate plane, you will be incredibly lucky because it's a world of easy. So let's say we have, for example, in our little, so we have our xy plane here, x, y, and say, there's A, and A we're going to say is equal to, I don't know, I'm going to try to put it in roughly that direction, 3 I hat plus 4 j hat, hot diggity. Okay, and then I'm going to make B, I'm going to put the tail at the same point just because I feel like it. I'm going to say B equals, what does that look like? I don't know, let's call that like 4 I hat minus j hat. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, so let's take the cross product of A and B, and now here's where this gets easy because when we do the first, so I'm going to write this out just to show you, but if you do a few of these and get some practice, it should come fairly naturally. 3i hat plus 4j hat, that's A, crossed with B, which is 4i hat minus j hat. And so the first term, I hat cross I hat, that becomes 0. So it's the outer term then you have to worry about next. You have I hat cross negative j hat. And remember to do your I, j, k, I, j, k. So we have 3i hat cross negative j hat. And right. And so that's negative 3 times I hat cross j hat. And if you're going that way, you're going to the right. So you're going I, j, k. So the answer there is going to be negative 3k hat. So this is going to equal negative 3k hat. And then you do the inner terms, which is 4j hat cross 4i hat. And that is going to be 16 times, so 4j hat cross 4i hat is going to be 16j hat cross I hat. And we go j, I, so we're going to the left, so that's negative k hat. So 16 times negative k hat, so negative 3k hat minus 16k hat. And then the last term in each is the j hat and the j hat, and the cross product of j hat and j hat is 0. So the answer here is negative 19k hat is A cross B. And so if I want to do, if I want to draw it on there, I can just go here, negative 19k hat, and I'm going to draw a negative, and this is going to be A hat cross B hat is our vector pointing into the page. I drew it there just because I felt like it, but you could draw it anywhere because you can place a vector anywhere. Now, something that's interesting to note is that the cross product is actually the area of a parallelogram, or the magnitude of the cross product is the area of a parallelogram with these two things as its sides. So this is a parallelogram here. This parallelogram has an area equal to the magnitude of A cross B, which happens to be 19. That can be kind of handy sometimes. So, keep that in mind if you're ever needing to find the area of some random parallelogram someone's shown you, and they happen to have expressed the sides in IJ, coordinates. People do that all the time for me. They have these weird parallelograms, and they just happen to have the sides expressed that way. And finally, you can see by the right-hand rule that if I were to hold my hand, or if you were to hold your hand, you're going to have to do it with your hand, because my hand, I keep my hand, so I can use my hand, but you have to learn to do it with your hand. So maybe it's best to say your hand. If you take your hand and put your thumb in the direction A hat is pointing, A vector is pointing, your right hand, of course, and you put your index finger in the direction that B is pointing, then you'll see your middle finger has to point into the page. So again, you use the right hand rule. Into the page is negative k hat. Out of the page would be positive k hat. So I think that is actually about it for cross products. And the thing is, it gets even easier when it's just like they're just in right angle dimensions. So if we do like this, and we have x and y, and then you have say a goes like a goes like that, and say a is 3i hat, and then b is like that, b is 6j hat, then oh my god, a cross b is so freaking easy, because a hat cross b hat is equal to, well, 3 times 6, so it's 18, and then I hat cross j hat is k hat. So if you ever have your vectors going along coordinate axes, it gets so really easy. And that is actually what most of them will be. So the key thing to remember is this IJK thing. If you're going to the right, it's positive. If you're going to the left, it's negative. Remember the right-hand rule. If you remember those two things, you're actually in very good shape. So that's all I'm going to do about cross products here. You can look at the book if you want more. And back to magnetism in the next video.